Beyond the Clef is presented by Director's Choice.
Welcome to Beyond the Clef, live at TMEA 2018, and I am here with Kim Cooley. How are you?
I'm great.
Thank you for being on the program.
Of course.
Appreciate it. So Kim is the band director at Clear Valley Middle
Creek
School.
Valley.
Creek Valley Middle School. I think I taught in a school district that had a Clear Valley, so that was it. You've been there for your sixth year. This is at Louisville ISD?
Louisville ISD, yes.
Cool. So, I need help with my flute teaching.
Okay.
And you're here for it.
Well, let me help you.
Yeah, a good friend of mine said you got to get Kim on and talk about that.
Yeah.
So, tell me when you're teaching your beginners, kind of what are your general thoughts on flute, general philosophies, and what are you really looking for? What are you really doing as your foundation and going through, let's just say, first 4 months?
Yeah. Well, when testing kids, I always want to look with someone not too full of a bottom lip, but a pretty full bottom lip, and kind of straight across, no teardrop right here in the center. And when I'm testing kids to see if they're going to be a good flute candidate, we put our finger right here, and I say, think of Winnie the Pooh. And so they blow out, and then they got to feel air right here on their fingers. And so what I'm looking for is, are they pulling back and smiling? Because that's going to be a hard habit to break later. Or is it naturally just, poochy out, and
Right.
so they go, yeah, just like that. Do you feel air getting right there?
I do. I'm worried now because you said full bottom lip and teardrop, so it sounds like I'm an awful candidate right off the bat.
No, actually, you would be fine.
All right.
You don't have a teardrop.
I don't? I thought
No.
I did, just a little bit.
Okay, let's look. No, you're good.
All right. Well, I'll tell my wife that Kim Cooley said I had good
There
flute
you
lips.
go. Yeah, so my philosophy, what I want them to know by the end of the 6th grade, I want them to play with a really good sound. Really, I am of the school of thought where I want them to play really, really big and have a nice big full sound. So that's the main thing. Great hand position, know some scales, and just have fun.
Okay.
So.
All right. So as they're developing, let's say that this is pulling back,
Mm-hmm.
right? What are some of your strategies to try to get into a kid?
Well, one
Kid's
thing
head.
that I'll do is we'll do a lot of the finger exercises when I just have them out. And so we'll go like this and say poo. And then we have fun. I like to make all sorts of weird little sounds. So we'll go to make sure that, this lip is mushy. And we talk about it and how it needs to be mushy.
I think that's going to be on the B-roll, sitting here doing that.
And so if they're pulling back, it's going to be, they
okay.
can't do that. So making that fun sound, even with little girls, it's a whole lot of fun. And so that's how we start. And then I'll go by and I'll place each kid. Some kids need to be off-center. It's wherever their aperture is naturally. And if they have a teardrop, we can get it to close on one side and they can still blow out the other side. Sometimes, like I say, I look for kids without a teardrop. That's ideal, but there's going to be kids who play with
Right.
a teardrop. Sometimes it goes away.
Right. Okay.
So, but if not, and like if their heart is set on flute, there are ways around it. You just got to close it and make your aperture on one side.
Okay, and
So-
I'm going through right now all the kids in my beginning flute class. I'm like, this is a problem. Let me ask her about this. So if I have a kid, especially now at this time of the year, now we're in February, and their aperture is too large, and they're blowing a lot of air to try to get the note out and force the note out. We've now formed a bad habit.
Uh-huh.
What would you say I should do then?
I always start with my lips closed.
Okay.
So that way, when they're blowing, it's going to make a really small aperture. If they start with their lips open,
Okay.
then it's going to be big from the start. So I always start with their lips closed and then blow out, saying poo. And then I also get them, I have lots of Asians at my school, and we're a very diverse school. And so I'm like, someone bring me rice. So I have like 20 bags of rice. So then we just stick a grain of rice in their lips, and they just feel it. And then we take it away, and they try to make that hole that small again.
Okay.
And then we try to blow fast air, so take like a piece of paper, put it against a wall. They have to hold it there for 5 seconds. takes a lot of air to play the flute. So
Okay. All right. So you talked a little bit about selecting flute players, okay, and now I'm in the mode where we've like I said, gotten to this point. I've formed bad habits. Do you have any other habits that you find that kind of creep in that you're trying to get away from? You like we're saying, the pressing? Okay.
yeah, kids will want to press and then they'll be super out of tune. So don't let them press. And I'm kind of mean, so while we're still on head joint, I'll come by and I'll go, and I'll just flip it. And if they're fighting me, they're pressing.
Okay. All right.
So I'm still blowing, my embouchure's still there, everything.
Right.
So.
All right. I'm gonna write down be mean. I like that. That's gonna be a good rememberer for me. Okay. So now let's forward along to my 8th graders.
Okay.
And there's all the.
Can we backpedal?
Oh, sure.
Hand position too.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so what I always say is like we have a karate chop right here. I say skip a button, finger, skip a button, finger, finger. They can remember that. I say that with saxophones too. Skip a button, finger, skip a button, finger, finger. And then we karate chop and then just go around.
Okay.
Now, this is offset. I personally play on inline G. It doesn't really matter.
Oh, and by the way, we have to thank
Music and Arts.
Music
Thank you,
and Arts. They provided us with a flute today.
Yes.
She went over and asked if she could borrow one. So it was very nice of them to do that.
So, and then if they're having trouble reaching the G key, really all they need to do is move their elbow in and it's fine. Never had an issue. What I notice is this hand. So we shake it out, we put it to the side of us and then just bring it up and it should make a flat C. What I don't like to see a lot of thumb under here. I want to see very little thumb about right there. I tell my kids they're worried about dropping it, but if you're going to drop it, it's going to go right here in your thumbs. So here we go. Borrowed flute, not mine. It's a Haynes. It's a nice one. I mean, that's where it's going to go.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And I got a trick from somebody that instead of using just the stickers to help tell them where it was, we actually use clarinet teeth savers and cut them in half because those teeth savers last forever. And so I have 3-year-old flute kids, not 3-year-old, third-year players, and that's been a really nice place to be like, always put it here.
Well,
Do you
there's
like
no
to use those?
such thing as a girl instrument, boy instrument. However, all my classes are mainly boys, or mainly girls. So I have little foam scrapbooking stickers. It's like hearts and flowers, and I put that right there. But that works too.
Yeah.
If I have a boy.
Yeah. We'll just put on the Dallas Cowboys sticker
Yeah.
for that kid.
Or they have some of like footballs and
Right.
softballs. And use that stuff.
Okay. Well, so I'm working right now in one of my in my pieces, and we're going through some tuning issues. And so I was working with a second band the other day. Texted a good friend of mine, said, "Hey, these are the symptoms. So let me quiz you on this. You can give me some some advice."
First thing you have to watch out is, are they covering 1/3 of the hole with their lip?
Okay.
That's why we want it to be mushy. It's because we want it to cover 1/3 of the hole.
Okay.
A lot of band directors are like, "You're sharp, pull out. You're sharp, pull out,"
No,
and so
you
then they'll
can't.
have
Yeah.
that much pulled out, when really they need about that much at the most. And if they're still having to pull out, then this is set up wrong, and they're not covering any hole right here.
Okay, because I had one. I was tuning to an A. We were just trying to get an A in tune, just right above the staff, and they were 50 cents sharp. Checked the cork and the instrument, all that, but I didn't want to pull out more than that. So
They also could be pressing.
could be pressing. Okay, cool, good to know. So a lot of those things. Okay, so pressing is. I really like the trick that you
Yeah.
showed there. Okay, that's gonna be my.
I do that with brass players too.
Nice. Yeah. I actually do the same thing with clarinet. If you, I get it on the inside of the bell. If you can get it just right, and you just push up and then you let go. If it comes out, then I know that they're not supporting it enough when they need to.
Yeah.
So
I just get the barrel and go.
Yeah, I do that too. Well, of course, now though, when I do that, it's like whoop, and then you just see, and then it goes right, and then all of a sudden, like just me walking by the clarinets, it seems like the tuning fixes
Ooh,
because they remember. Yeah. So you can just get them to keep on doing that. Okay, so then Also, talk to me about how do I get. Okay, so I've a friend told me, well, maybe they're blowing too far out of the hole. What are some strategies to get like a player with a bad habit to try to blow in the right direction?
Well, the Numo Pro is a good thing to use. Have you seen that?
I have, yes.
Okay, with the 3 little propellers. And so we talk about... And
here's a quiz. Can you spell
Yes.
Numa Pro?
Do you have
I can't.
pen and paper?
I can't.
I know it starts with a P.
It starts with a P and then there's an N.
N-E-U-M-O-P-R-O?
I bet if you kind of Google it, you might be able to figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great. Blocky flute method, I
Yes.
think, is the Numa Pro. They're in cahoots, right? It's the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So people can find it on that. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so and another thing I'll do is we'll get a pen and we'll put a star on the hand, and then we'll put it right here, and I'll have them blow right here, and I'm like, that's for a middle note. And then their elbow is more for a low note. So we'll aim our air right here, and then while still blowing, we'll move it to our elbow.
So that's a lot of lower lip you're trying to get them to do?
Yeah, and that's
jaw.
only so they can kind of grasp the idea of
Okay.
direction of air. Like when I'm actually playing, I move my jaw a little bit and my lips
Okay.
together.
Okay.
So when I'm doing like octave slurs and harmonics and that kind of stuff.
Cool. I just remember you taught us the karate chop too. There's so many great things. I got to write all these things down because I'm going to do
that's
these in
okay.
my class on Tuesday when I get back to school. So
Start
it's
over,
been really
kids.
great. Yeah, it's been really fantastic. Okay, so now another thing that I'm working on is trying to do the harmonics, right? Okay, and so we've been working with the music mastery book and
Yeah.
all that stuff, and so we got to that page, started looking into them. How do you introduce that to your flutes for the first time?
Well, we just experiment, and with me in my classes, I like to demonstrate a lot. Luckily, I'm a flute player, so I'll just get on there and I'll start going and I'll play like a low C, and then or a low D or whatever note I feel like that day, and then I'll go to that one and then I'll hit the next one. I'm like, can you do that? And just to see who can do it. And then I'll tell them, I'm like, okay, watch what's happening with my jaw. So if I have this, what's moving? And then they have to look at me and they're like, your jaw, your lips. I'm like, yeah. So then I walk around and see every kid try to do that. You can always tell, especially like on the head joint, high and low, this is a good way.
Right.
You never want them to just use air. You'll get that sound.
Right.
So that's why you always want to bring everything forward. I call it like a beak, like a bird's beak. And so I'll just bring everything forward. And I always want the higher note to be way softer, training them to kind of float the high notes from the beginning so we don't get into band in 7th and 8th in high school and you're like, flute, stop it.
Yeah, right.
So.
Okay. Now talk to me, let's say 8th grade flutes, dynamics, top band. Talk to me about dynamics, because for me, a lot of the times the dynamics for flute is always the same.
Okay,
How does
honestly, flutes don't have that much dynamics.
exactly?
We do everything with vibrato.
Okay.
In my personal opinion, others might take issue with that. You
Sure,
know,
that's fine.
flute players are very, very picky.
Right.
But I'm
Drummers
a very,
are like that
yeah,
too.
I'm a very loud flute player,
Okay.
and like I can do some softs,
Right.
but we're just not going to have the dynamics
Okay.
that a clarinet or a trumpet or
Sure.
without like drastically affecting pitch.
Right.
Unless they're trained and they worked with a tuner, and you know, so it's just one of those things that you just really have to develop.
Cool.
But they're gonna have to practice playing like louds. If you start louds from the start, then it's never a problem. Softs are a problem. So they're just gonna have to make that aperture real small and still fast air, but like their aperture has to be super small.
Great.
Okay.
Great. Well, I've learned a lot. There's a lot of notes down here for me, and I'm sure my flute players are going to love it when I get to see them on Tuesday. We're going to beat them up. So thank you so much for coming on the program. Really appreciate it. Kim Cooley, and thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Clef.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Beyond the Clef. For more great content, subscribe on our website at beyondtheclef.com, and be sure to follow us on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, and Facebook.